Foundation was essentially co-founded by a couple of people called Michael, Chris, and Jack. And these folks were upset about how global governance is functioning, especially in political things, where everything is happening behind closed doors. We have these representative democracies, and they do their own decision makings, and suddenly all of the parties are the same, and you don't really have differences between the parties, and that leads to populism. You saw Geert Wilders win in the Netherlands. In Germany, Alice Weidel's AFD is going forward pretty strong. So these guys were really inspired by the concept of liquid democracy, and essentially
that was a Cardano concept, right? Didn't that come from...
I'm not sure. I think our idea is probably something along the lines of what Charles Hoskinson would also appreciate. But liquid democracy itself is a concept in politics. It's a form of delegative democracy where an electorate engages in collective decision making through direct participation and dynamic representation. So essentially, you don't have this one representative who gets elected every 4 years and then they can do anything they want on every single issue. You have a more liquid system where you essentially have no technocracy. So this one expert is always responsible for making decisions on all topics around this one field. No, you have many different experts who are dynamically elected to make decisions on different things. And essentially the Tonomy governance operating system consists of a very strong identity layer, which is built with EIDA standards, which is the European Union standards for digital identity. It enables also digital signatures such as DocuSign, for example, but on blockchain. It also enables single sign-on to different apps. So you can basically use the blockchain to do single sign-on your wallet instead of using a password. So we get rid of servers and data breaches when you're logging into stuff. But it also is a tool to provide the billion people who don't have identity with a identity system where they can identify themselves. We also integrate things like KYC within there, and what we're currently building on the ID side is basically a passport of a virtual nation state called Pangea, where anyone in the world can simply become a citizen and then essentially get citizenship rights that are then implemented into the other parts of the governance operating system, such as, Tonomy Participate, which is our DAO voting platform, where, anyone can set up a DAO and easily cast votes from identified people. So, most DAOs nowadays, they work on a share-based system. So, you own most of the coins, you get the biggest vote in the DAO. And that's not really a democracy. It's more like a hyper-capitalist version of democracy. I wouldn't even call it democracy. So what we enable is truly democratic voting for DAOs. So one identity that's been verified equals one vote. And at the same time, one of the other key parts is that we're bringing accountability to Web3. So people can have trust scores based on their previous transactions and interactions on the network. They can, it's not the, it's an extremely private way of doing that. It's not as, horribly disturbing as the social credit system by the Chinese Communist Party. But it's a system that enables some level of accountability and also gives Web3 developers the ability to have a user management system and an identity and access management system, essentially, for their dApps. But on the Web2 side, we just enable superior cybersecurity with IAM on a blockchain network instead of on servers. The other core part of what we're
when you say IAM, you're saying identity access management, right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yep.
And the other part is this L1 network that's essentially running all of this. And this is something we used to deploy the solution. Tonomy participates in Tonomy ID. We used to deploy them on EOS, Telos, WAX, or UX Network, which are Antelope-based protocols. And the main reason is the account abstraction layer on those networks. Jack, our CTO, he's been in the EOS ecosystem for a very long time. He also used to work with the Ethereum founders on actually the Ethereum name service. I think you guys might have some stuff to talk about. But he loves Antelope, and he's really experienced with it. So he built that on Antelope. But about 7 or 8 months ago, I joined them. Of course, me as an HBAR maximalist will do anything I can to push them as much as possible into Hedera. So that's basically currently the main challenge of figuring out how to become a sidechain of Hedera. What I can definitely commit to right now is that we're going to use the Hedera Guardian service for the carbon emission tracking of the DAOs that are registered on Pangea's company registry. So like any country, you have a company registry, and we're going to use the Guardian service to track the emissions of the DAOs and some other DMRB use cases. But what I can't currently, confirm from a technical standpoint is how the integration with, these two L1s into, connecting them, how that's going to work. But, my vision is to have the Tonomy network be the permissionless brother of the Hedera network, where, anyone can run a node. What I spoke to Christian Hasker about this quite a lot during COP28, and also Serge from Swolz Labs. They were talking about the sharding initiative and how we could theoretically talk in those realms for Hedera. The only thing again that our technical team is mainly concerned about is the fact that we have two different consensus mechanisms. In my perspective, this is an opportunity. Hedera can have a permissionless brother. But techies always have different considerations, and also there's a lot of business considerations. But one major benefit this can provide, in my opinion, to the Hedera ecosystem is the fact that we can migrate all of the WAX, Telos, EOS projects to Hedera with essentially one click. So right now, there is a bit of a technical challenge with all of these games and platforms on WAX and EOS. If they want to all migrate to Hedera, they need to put in some serious development effort. Some of them might even not even consider it at all. But with Tonomy, if this becomes truly a sidechain of Hedera, the migration to Hedera could become very, very quick. And if you look at dApp Radar and look at the top dApps, especially on the gaming side, you're going to see a lot of projects on WAX protocol that have a lot of users. And EOS, even though there was a huge catastrophe around there, there is also a lot of users there. So, in my opinion, that's the big opportunity. Games like Farmer's World, Alien Worlds, all of these platforms, Upland, Upland chose EOS. I personally have an Upland account. I love the whole virtual real estate trading game. There's Taco and WAX. These games have some serious, users and players, and we could get them closer to Hedera by doing this. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm currently working on there at Tonomy.
That's pretty awesome. I'm looking at Tonomy's wallets too. I see like account creation and login is 1 minute and 20 seconds. Wallet transaction sign flow is 15 seconds. Are those things that you're looking at migrating to Hedera as well to bring down those times?
Well, one thing with it, this is of course very technical in terms of what's possible to do also on Hedera. But one core thing that we're enabling is one-click signatures, where you don't need to always, of course, these will be limited. So you want to avoid people getting their wallets drained just because they click on a button on a site. So there are some limitations for what you can do one-click signatures. But essentially, you want to have some things where you don't want to constantly go back to the wallet, confirm this transaction, confirm that transaction. You want to make some things way quicker. So our aim really is to deliver a Web 2 experience with one-click signatures, especially for Web 2 companies, while still harnessing all of the benefits. So, what we mainly focus on is to make the user experience of Web 3 feel as close as possible to Web 2, especially for enterprise and government customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a cool project. I mean, I'm very keen to learn more about Tonomy. I've always been a fan since I became aware of it, probably about 6 years ago, of liquid democracy, and have been exploring that in particular and thinking about how we could apply that in the Hedera ecosystem. And it sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought into not just that, but also the identity component, a lot of thought into the identity component of that entire challenge.
For sure. And what really excites me, other than the technical, look, we're building this virtual nation state to be able to use that as a POC to, showcase that this technology can be used by governments as well. But at the same time, I really think that, in a world where we're full of this division, you're this gender, you're that color, you're this social class, if we can bring people together and give them a collective identity in form of a virtual nation state where they can all become citizens and enjoy the same rights, I really think that's a concept made for the future. And what we're building is called Web 4. And this is not just something we thought, oh, this could be a cool buzzword to get some money. No, this is actually a European Union standard on shared worlds and the metaverse, and how their economies should function. If you go on the European Commission's website and type in Web 4, you're going to see a list of criteria for the standards that the European Union has set out for these systems. And I think if we're going to have truly a metaverse, if we're going to have truly virtual worlds, then we need to have something like Tonomy in place as well to make sure the governance of these worlds is done in a correct shape and form. And I think the virtual world is going to have implications on the real physical world as well. So with the passport, our goal is to first of all have a virtual GDP for this virtual country, then at the same time partner up with countries, starting with small countries, to enable entry to those countries with this passport for our citizens. And it took one El Salvador for Bitcoin to get a higher level of recognition. I personally think we're going to be able to achieve the same recognition level by partnering up with a couple of countries to enable entry into those with our passport. But one more thing where I won an innovation award for that from the Next Web is a concept I've been working on for, I would say, at least 4 years now, is universal basic income. And this is something, I think is going to be more and more important as systems become autonomous, jobs are replaced. We're going to have humanoid robots. We're going to unfortunately lose a lot of jobs in society. And yeah, there will be a transition to new jobs, but we need to enable a certain minimum standard of living for people. Now, WorldCoin and Sam Altman's project is going into that direction, but they're doing it in a very questionable way with their tokenomics of the WLD token, where essentially they're constantly dumping on the market. So, if I sign up on something and then I constantly get this reward and that it's basically diluting the market, and investors get hurt, and then also it's this fluctuating currency. So we're actually exploring I think it's strategically not smart to go too deep into that right now, but we figured out a really interesting way to enable universal basic income. That also goes hand in hand with this idea of creating virtual GDPs. So yeah, I hope to be able to share more about that soon as well.
That sounds incredibly exciting. Why have I not heard about this project before?
Well,
we say that about every great project, don't we? Why have I not heard about this?
Yeah, I mean, we were mainly focused on enterprises and governments. When we showed this to a major U.S. state CTO, what he said was, and we didn't even show the whole thing, it was just the identity component. He said it's one of the most innovative things he'd ever seen. And this guy is, he's got a master's degree from one of the best Ivy League universities in the United States. Generally, when I joined them, I thought the same thing. I thought, wow, how does no one know about this? I'm just super excited to be able to work with people like Jack and Chris and Mikhail and also Chetna, who recently joined our board. We're about 20 people. We're mainly based in Amsterdam. We are a non-profit as well, of course. I hope to be able to deliver their message to the world, and I hope to be able to integrate Hedera as deep as possible into the system. So that's also one of the main, personal KPIs I have.